Okay, welcome to the first of four of these lunchtime live sessions that are going to take place every fortnight over the next couple of months. Quick personal introduction. So my name's Simon Gardiner. Amongst other things, I'm the father of two boys, a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. I've always taken a keen interest in business and I actually studied at a university, and in 2011 I started my first proper journey into entrepreneurship, launching a recruitment company, and since then I've been involved in various businesses from hospitality and property sectors as well. Now you may have seen the posts on the Young Entrepreneur of England's Instagram over the weekend and last week. So I was honoured to be asked to be the first ever mentor for that organisation. So big thanks to them, and specifically to Laura for asking me to come on board. So you've probably got a few questions. So firstly, why am I here? More importantly, why should you really care what I have to say? And I suppose the big one is, how can I help you? So I suppose the headline, if you like, is that, I've been involved in the launch of 3 businesses. Okay. We've hired over 200 people. In the last year, we hit the milestone of £1 million a week in sales, obviously every week, from that point onwards, nicely. And we forecast this year actually to achieve 75 million in sales. Now, over the past decade, we have won numerous national awards, mostly in the last few years. Primarily the highlights being the UK's best recruitment company to work for, and we've won that twice. If you consider there's 39,000 recruitment businesses in the UK, that's a decent achievement. And the UK's best learning and development programme, and that's for any business in any sector. And we've won that now back to back 2 years in a row. So previous winners of that award, organisations such as Lloyds Bank, etc. So we're an esteemed company. We also hold a platinum status Investors in People award, of which only 2% of employers in the UK hold that. So personally, I don't think as a business we've even got started yet. I know I haven't even got started yet. There's much more to come from me, much more to come from this business, which is the exciting thing. But I suppose to other people on the outside are looking in, we've had a bit of success. Now, this is really what can be achieved, but I've also been right at the beginning where you are, literally, possibly even at the planning stage. So what was our beginning like? So our business started on a cold January morning in 2011, and we started this business in my brother's garage. Okay, it was cold. It was we only had 2 laptops, our personal laptops that were sort of clunky and didn't really work too well. We had our mobile phones, and we had 2 temporary tables that have, fold out leg tight tables in a garage. It was cold, but we had to type, we had to make phone calls. So one of us had a pair of fingerless gloves that we used. The other person had to make a pair of fingerless gloves from some actual fingered gloves that we had. So you could tell, it was a humble start. So I understand the struggle. Okay. Now, I'm not sitting here claiming to be Elon Musk. I'm not sitting here claiming to be any kind of genius. The advice I've got is very simple advice. It's common sense advice, but it does come from 10 years of experience. And quite often online on Instagram these days, you struggle to find people with actual experience trying to mentor people and trying to give their advice. So as I said, I've got a decade of information, ups, downs, failures, and wins to share with you, okay, over the next 8 weeks. So after 10 years in the game and 10 years of being fully focused on growing our business, and that focus will never, ever leave me, that's my priority. But I'm now keen to speak and advise lots of you on your journey into entrepreneurship. So many of you have already started. Some of you are still in the planning phase, and that's okay. As well as advice and as content for as many of you as possible, one person or one business will win actually 12 months of direct mentoring from me, completely free. Okay. Now, all you have to do to ensure that you're in a chance of winning that is to be following my Instagram handle, which is si.gardiner.mm, as well as the Young Entrepreneurs of England's Instagram handle, which is YEO England, YEO England as well. You also, thirdly, just need to comment your handle or your business's handle on the Instagram post where this giveaway was announced. I think that was posted only a couple of days ago on the Young Entrepreneurs of England's profile. On Sunday, the 23rd of January, I believe. So go back and comment on that. That's your entry. Follow both accounts. Now, what do you get for that? You get my mobile number. You'll get direct access. You get Zoom calls, all for 12 months for free. We're going to sit down. We're going to go through your business. And if you've started, we're going to scale it. And if you haven't started it, we're going to get it to a point of hopefully launch and beyond. Okay. So why am I doing this? So selfishly, I love being around the energy of startups, speaking to ambitious, driven people, looking to change the way things are done through entrepreneurship. I love hearing how people are going to disrupt markets. It's something that we did and we enjoyed every minute of it, and we still do. So today's live has two aims, okay? Firstly, to provide you with 4 key things to consider or action before starting a business. If you've launched already, it's never too late to revisit the 4 points I'm going to discuss. And secondly, the top 5 lessons I've learned in my 11 years in the game. Okay, so it's a bit of a pre and post launch session. I'm aiming to have it done within about 35 to 45 minutes. I don't know exactly. I haven't tested the length of time, but I suppose we're going to find out together. So let's get started. Now, the first point, the first of 4 key things to consider before launching or starting a business. Number 1, formulate a plan. Now, this sounds very, very obvious, but it's overlooked by so many people. You need to write a business plan, okay? Business plans aren't cool. They're not flashy. You're not going to see them on Instagram, right? But they have to be done, okay? Writing a business plan isn't important because you're going to present it to the bank for any investment or stand in front of an investor like the sort of 90s stereotype. Those things don't happen really anymore, certainly the bank thing. But you need to write a business plan, not because the document itself is of huge importance once it's complete, but it's more the process or the act of writing one down, which is the important thing. Okay. Once it's complete, yes, you can update it. Yes, you can see how far you've come, maybe every 6 months, every year, whatever. But writing it down can investigate any bottlenecks you've got, any issues before you do anything major, like quit a job or anything drastic like that. So if you've got a business partner or more than one, then it's vital that you write a business plan, okay? Because in that business plan can go both of you or more of you, your short, medium, and long-term intentions for the company. It's unbelievable how many businesses start and 6 months in, you've got the founders pulling in different directions because they just assumed that the long-term vision was the same. They don't sit down and have that conversation. If it's in writing, it's in writing, okay? If you're launching a business alone, then it's very important to write a business plan as well, because if, like me, you've got 100,000 thoughts flying around your head a day, quite often what I found is you pick up a project within your business or 3 months later, you start to research it, and actually you've already done this research. You start to click on web links that are different color on Google. You've already researched it. You didn't, and you've forgotten you have. Okay, so going through the process can save you time. It can save repeat decisions being made. If you've already launched, then it's not too late to properly formulate a plan going forward. Okay, taking what's already happened in the real world, you've got real world experience, let's say 3 months, 6 months in, maybe longer, you can go back and you can start to write a plan with actual tweaking and sharpening the processes. Now, if you've got no idea how to write a business plan, you've never seen one, for example, don't forget, the Young Entrepreneurs of England is a community. Okay, you can reach out to each other within the community. You can ask for advice. If you're uncomfortable to do that or whatever, or you want to get started first before asking advice, add me on Instagram, DM me. I can send you. I've got 2 excellent business plan templates that will at least get you started. Okay. Now, I know firsthand what it's like to launch a business with only scribbled notes and some thoughts in your mind. Okay. So, quick story. before we set this business up, we worked for a competitor down the road, myself and the original person that set it up. Two or three then joined us soon after. But we worked, and we all worked actually at this company. Now, the environment was very oppressive. It was very dog eat dog. And when you're 23, you don't really mind that kind of environment. It's actually quite fun. Okay, then the 2008 crash happened, and the pressure started to ramp up, and there were some very strange answers to some very important questions that we had as employees. We were essentially being asked to start again in a new area of recruitment, which takes years to build up, in another area of the business, in a culture that we no longer believed in. So our idea was, well, if we're going to start up, if we're being asked to start up again, why don't we do that? Why don't we do the same thing, but create something and take the best parts from that business, of which there were a few, and create a culture that we believe in and is more inclusive and more understanding and more collaborative. Okay, so that's what we did. Our idea was born. Okay, we gave ourselves 6 months from the point of making that decision to leaving, to give ourselves 6 months to save money, but more importantly, to write a full business plan so we could go into this new project with our eyes wide open. Okay. Now, we were 2 weeks into our secret 6-month escape plan when I took a day's leave. I went to the cinema. I came out mid-afternoon, looked at my phone, turned it on after the film, and in flooded scores of texts, all from the office. Okay. My manager, a few colleagues, but mainly from the person I was going to set this business up with initially, which was James. Okay, James had been faced with producing his quarterly appraisal, which usually is around 5 hours work and about a 3-hour meeting. And as this built up, he'd obviously, he'd walked in and he'd quit there and then. Okay, he couldn't face it. He couldn't face looking someone in the eye and effectively lying about the plans for the next 3 months when we knew we weren't going to be there. So he left 5.5 months too early. Okay. Because he simply just couldn't bring himself, as I said, to start this appraisal and lie to our manager. Now, our beautifully planned step down from the company with no more than a little soft landing, 2-foot soft landing, was now effectively like being sort of kicked out of a passenger jet, right, with no parachute. Okay, we had no choice. We left there and then. We didn't have the time to save. We didn't have the time to plan. So we winged it, thinking that was the best thing. Okay, never wing it. Okay, over the next 3 years from that point, we made mistake after mistake after mistake. Okay, some that cost us a huge amount of money. We were always going to make mistakes. You're always going to make mistakes when you set up a business, but some could have been avoided with the business plan for sure. It's very, very important. Now, secondly, out of the 4 key things to consider, number 2, you need to consider your short, medium, and long-term goals. Right now, I'm seeing more and more people set up businesses to support goals that are probably unrealistic in the short term. For example, a common one I'm seeing post-pandemic is I want to set up a business to spend more time with my family. Now, obviously, it depends on the type of business that you want to set up. It depends how quickly you want to scale it. But if you're looking to grow big enough to take on employees and launch products or services in the mainstream, there's going to be a huge reduction in the time you spend with your family and friends. There's going to be a huge reduction in your work-life balance. There's not going to be a work-life balance in the short term. Longer term, quite possibly, that is possible. But please be aware, in most cases, to find the time to start winding down the hours that you put in the most case, will take many, many years. All right. Now, there's a whole other session coming on proper goal setting and the vision behind goals. So I'll save that for another day. But please be aware of what you want to do and what your priorities are, particularly in the short term. There will be times that you have to do things that you don't want to do. So please bear that in mind. The last thing you want to find is that you end up losing passion for the project because it was set up in a time that's not paramount to what you want to do in the short, medium term. Okay. Number 3, a personal SWOT analysis. Okay. Now, if you don't know what SWOT analysis is, Google it. It's very, very useful. But essentially, it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now, we haven't got a huge amount of time today, so let's concentrate on the S and the W, strengths and weaknesses. Now, you probably have got a fairly good idea of the skills that you possess, your main strengths and your main weaknesses, okay? But prior to launch, it's a really good idea to formalize these and get them down on paper. Now, if you're not fully aware of what you're really good at, and some people aren't, they just naturally are, they don't realize, ask a family member or friend, but you need them to be brutally honest with both sides, okay? You can also add enjoyment to the list, right? What might you be good at, but you don't enjoy? Now, in the early days, you will have no choice but to carry out all the tasks, as I did, as the other guys did, and that will include things that you don't enjoy. Now, as I said, I still encounter a few things that I don't like to do, but they have become less and less over time, as we do have the luxury of 80 people all eager to pick things up. So again, just like the business plan, the end result itself is useful, but the real use comes in the process of delving deep into your soul and admitting to yourself what you might need help with. Now, there's two important key reasons for that. One, if you list your weaknesses or development points, as they're more sort of politically correct term these days, it then won't come as a shock to you when you struggle with certain aspects of the business further down the line. Okay, it's not going to derail you, you're expecting it. And also, secondly, you can then make an informed decision as to whether you upskill in that area, or you know, start to think about actually procuring assistance in the areas in which you're weakest, right? So once you've identified your weaknesses, how do you know which route to take? Do you upskill in those areas, or do you buy those strengths in from others? Okay. Now, the answer to this, it needs to be a really common sense answer. There's no right or wrong. It's a grey area. But to help you make the decision, my advice here is to think long, is to think how long and how often into the future you're going to need that skill. And if you obtain that skill, how often during the week and how long during the week would you need it to operate your business? How long will it take to learn is another key factor. Okay, for example, I wouldn't put yourself on a web design course if you just want to launch a single website and then get it updated every 2 or 3 years, right? A web design course might take 12 months, might take 2 years, might cost you £4,000 cost of the website. Okay, you need, there's a common sense thing here. Also, bookkeeping. You're not going to go and do a bookkeeping course or a a financial management course to manage your part of the finances day to day, right? These skills are best brought in when they're needed. So buying the expertise that takes many years to learn and isn't used daily isn't ideal. Okay, upskill in those areas, and upskill in the areas that are quicker to learn and use more often. For example, if you're not ideal on Excel, or you've never opened a spreadsheet, you want to start a business, you've never even opened a spreadsheet, okay, you can't, that's an area that you're going to need to upskill in. Okay, most entrepreneurs I love a spreadsheet. I live my life through spreadsheets. If I outsourced every spreadsheet that I wanted designed, I'd be outsourcing 2 or 3 a day at great expense. Okay, so you need, is a common sense thing, as I said. Now, don't spend years learning skills that can be bought, as I said, by leveraging the time of other people, or when you have a team, used to develop the skills of your team. Okay. Now, the big misconception here about delegation is that it's there to save you time. Okay. Delegation is the time-saving aspect, is a byproduct of retaining your motivation. Saving time is secondary. All right. You delegate things that you don't necessarily enjoy. You need to be pumped when you come in. You need to be excited about your day. Okay. So give away the tasks that, one, you don't feel skilled at and it's going to take too long to learn, and 2, when you have a team, that zap your time and your enjoyment. Okay. So what you need to bear in mind, it's like, I'll have an analogy. You'll understand that about me. I'm very visual. So imagine a football coach or an athletics coach. You're not going to ask the shot putter to run a 100-meter race. Okay, you're not going to ask the star striker to play in goal, right? Identify what you're good at and play to your strengths. Have your best people and best players in the best positions, okay? And outsource what you can in the early days. Number 4, and probably, so the final part of this section, and probably the most important part. Now, this is a mindset shift, okay? Ask yourself the question, what are you prepared to do that others aren't? Okay, what are you prepared to do that others aren't? That is the separator. Now, at the moment, and probably since the rise of social media, Instagram, whatever, entrepreneurship is fashionable. Everyone calls themselves an entrepreneur, but honestly, half these people don't realize the harsh, hard reality. They haven't lived through it yet. Yes, it can be hugely rewarding. Yes, you can impact hundreds of others. And yes, you can make lots of money eventually, but it takes lots of hard work. There are long-term non-financial costs, which we'll come on to later. I'm a realist, okay? I'm here to tell you the truth, right? It's tough. I'm talking here about good old-fashioned sacrifice, okay? Growing a business from a cold garage and fingerless gloves into £1 million a week, right, takes everything you have, everything, okay? Now, your goals might be much smaller, especially at the start, and that's good, that's fine. But every business and the responsibility that you legally sign up to when you launch a business, okay, that business will change the way that you think and operate every day that business is around and that you're involved in it. So you need to be aware of that. Now, you don't see these days many people actually willing to give up much at all. You don't see anyone wanting to risk their own money. You don't see anyone wanting to risk their own time. Okay, these are resources that you have to invest and you have to risk if you're going to do anything of any note, right? Now, what are you willing to give up in the short and medium term for long-term gains? But there are no shortcuts. Now, I'm not just talking about today's sacrifice. I'm not just talking about the week sacrifice. The weekend is a big one for people. What are you going to sacrifice at the weekend? What are you going to sacrifice on the bank holiday when everyone else is doing X? Okay, this is the separator. Now, this is all important. Hopefully your biggest takeaway from this first half, right? There's a famous American football coach, Jerry Rice. Okay, now I love studying sports coaches and their mindset. It's very transferable into leadership and entrepreneurship. Now, Jerry Rice once said about his own American football career, write this down. Today, I will do what others won't, so that tomorrow I can accomplish what others can't. Okay, today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can accomplish what others can't. Now, I like to look at this quote in two halves. Let's take the first half. Today I will do what others won't. Now, let's look at that. I've got some figures. 64% of the UK population say they want to start a business, right? 64%. That's mad, right? Now, only 8.2% of the UK population will do this or has done this. The rest of them are talking bollocks to themselves and to other people that have to listen to them talk bollocks, right? So you're already in the vast majority, you're already in the vast minority of people if you've started, right? Or if you plan to start, or if you will start. From that 8.2%, 60% of those will eventually fail. Now, there's no shame in failing. You can try again, but 60% of that 8.2% will fail because they don't necessarily take stances like this. 3.28% is what's left of the population that will purely make the cut. Okay. Now, what I say makes the cut and what I say is successful is not what someone else would say. So it's very subjective, right? But let's say what I say, how I determine make the cut is you have a nice house. You can clothe yourself, you can feed yourself, you pay yourself what you would earn in a normal job. That's you've made the cut in the world of entrepreneurship. Now, but you don't have to answer to anyone, or so you think. But successful is, it, as I said, subjective. But for me, 1 in 20 would become what I call successful, right? Now, that at the moment is not me, right? I'm not in those 1 in 20. I'm striving to be there and I won't give up. But 1 in 20 is what I would call truly successful entrepreneurs of that 3.28%. That leaves that's 0.64 of the UK population as successful entrepreneurs. Now, this tells me, right, that to succeed, your life cannot reflect in any way the lives of 99 out of every 100 people in the UK. You can't do what they do. You can't go where they go. You can't socialize. In the early days, we're talking about in the early days, you can't, your life can't reflect 99 other people's lives. Otherwise, you're going to get what they've got. You're not going to get what the 1% is going to go for, the less than 1%. So what are you prepared to do that 99 other people won't do today? This is a very special quote, okay? And it holds a place in my mind at least two or three times every day. Now, when things get tough, okay, I'm sat here thinking, Christ, this is hard. This is hard. My inner voice speaks up and goes, fucking right. It's supposed to be hard. Okay. It's supposed to be hard. 99% of other people aren't going to prepare to do what you're doing. Right. That gives me comfort. I know I'm on the right path. It's not supposed to be easy. Right. They don't tell you that on Instagram. They don't tell you that when they're lying across a rented Ferrari. And they don't tell you that when they're walking hand in hand down a white beach somewhere on social media. They don't tell you it because they don't know it. Okay. Now, the second half of this quote. So we've had the first half. Today, I will do what others won't. The second half, right? So that tomorrow I can accomplish what others can't. Now, this half promises better days. And they do come. But today will be tough and tomorrow will be tough. In fact, it never stops being tough, but your compensation, yeah, either your personal reward or your financial reward catches up eventually. Okay. Embrace it when it gets hard. Embrace it when it gets complicated, and embrace it when it gets emotional, because it will. Now, you know, if you fight through that day and you fight through that week and you come through, you are stronger. And you know you know that some of the competition has fallen because they gave up at the point that you didn't give up. Okay. Now, again, sport analogy. Imagine the Olympics. Imagine the 400-meter hurdles. Okay. Imagine every 100 meters is 5 years in entrepreneurship. The first 100, you jump in the hurdles, you get to the end of the first 100, the end of the first 5 years, you look to your right and your left. There were 9 people that started the race. There's now only 7. They've fallen at the hurdles that you jumped over. Okay. Now, next 100 meters, you get through, you look to your side, Christ, another 3 have gone. Okay. 20 years in, I guarantee you that if you keep going, you're going to be one of the only. You're going to be one of the only finishers. You will finish the race. You will finish the race where others haven't. So further down the line, having come through, you now know that struggle in life is guaranteed. It's guaranteed. Okay, it's a struggle to build a big company, right? It's a struggle to build a small company. It's also a struggle to work 50 hours a week in a role where you can't see the next promotion and you aren't valued. It's also a struggle to watch others succeed whilst you keep convincing yourself that'll be me next year, that'll be me next year, I'll start next year. Okay, so choose which struggle you're gonna go after. Right, so that's the 4 key areas done. Hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully it's got you thinking. Now, I've got 5 key lessons here. We may have time for 5. We might just have time for 4. I can tag on to one of the other talks. Let's see. So as I said, I've been doing this 11 years. Not as many as some, but more than others. If you imagine, I'm 200 meters into that 400 meter race that I was just describing. Some people have fallen that I started with. Now, top 5 lessons. So think about this. First one is read. Okay, read. Right, great quote here from Jim Rohn. A formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. Okay, quite a well-known quote. Some of you may have already heard about it, but it's really interesting. So a scary percentage of the population has never read a book since leaving their last place of full-time education, whether that be school, college, or university. Don't let that be you. Okay, reading non-fiction self-development books as early as you can in this process, certainly before launching a business if you can, is vital to keep expanding your brain and the way you think. Right now, I didn't start this in earnest till about 5 years ago. It's my biggest regret. I was really late in starting this. But the growth I felt personally and the growth we have felt as a business has been huge, right? Since targeting at least 12 intentional reads a year, 1 a month. Okay. Now, some people I know and some people I follow try and do 1 a week, 52 books a year. Now, if you're not going to do 52 books a year, make sure you've got 40 excuses up your sleeve, right? Now, my main 2 excuses are 2 young babies. So 52 books at the moment for me, not going to happen, but hopefully one day it will. Minimum 12. Well, top 3 to get you started. Okay. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. There are hundreds more. If you reach out to me, add me and message me on Instagram, I'll send you a list of my top 20, okay, just to get you started. We've got a library here at work, obviously here at Carrington West, we've got a library where our colleagues are encouraged to literally borrow the titles, read them. There's an intranet where they can review them and refer them to colleagues. And these days with Audible, you can listen to as many of these books as you like, but I prefer to buy a copy, read it with a highlighter and a biro, make notes, make marks all over the page. Really, I sort of study the books rather than read them. But so it takes me a lot longer than the average reader, but it works for me. Okay, every successful person I know, and I'm lucky to know a few, read these non-fiction books really regularly. Okay, so I think there's something to be learned from that. So lesson number 2, the art of delayed gratification. Again, now we live in a world of comparison. We live in a world of instant gratification. People want success today, but what stops most people from seeing huge returns isn't their skill set, their drive, their ambition, anything like that. It's usually the length of time it takes them to wrap their head around how long it's going to take to succeed, right? Now, if you're young and just starting, or you've just started, don't, whatever you do, compare yourself to someone who's 5, 10, or 15 years in, okay? Don't go on Instagram and start doing that. Don't compare your business to an established brand, okay? Compare yourself and your business to what they both looked like yesterday, a week ago, a year ago, okay? Success should come in the daily baby steps you take towards your vision. Celebrate the milestones, and day by day, build and grow and march forward day by day, tick the needle forward. Before you know it, you look up, you've gone from a garage to £1 million a week business. Okay. There is no secret sauce. There is no magic formula. All right. Essentially, it's asking yourselves 3 questions. Very simple. Where am I now? Where do I want to go? And what am I prepared to do to get there? Okay. What am I prepared to do to get there? Okay. The answer to these 3 questions will essentially form most of your plan. But to ingrain how long it's going to take to succeed, you need to remind yourself of that daily. Okay. You need to form a habit that's going to remind yourself of that. So look at yourself in the mirror after you clean your teeth or anything that you normally do, tag a habit onto the end of a habit. And you just literally say in the mirror, I'm an entrepreneur. My project's going to take years. I'm aware of this. I'm expecting it. It's going to take years. I'm aware of it. I'm expecting it. Okay. The number of businesses that might have folded because someone has just been too impatient to see the success. Thirdly, doing all right for time. Thirdly, now we spoke earlier about the short and medium term sacrifice it takes to succeed, but what about the very possible and the very real non-financial cost of doing this, of going down this route? Again, I'm going to tell you the full facts. The brutal facts of my journey are no holidays for the first 3 years, not a single holiday, right? And I didn't want one. I was too focused on this. Number 2, we didn't draw a salary for 14 months. Okay. Not a single pound went from the business bank account to our own personal bank accounts for 14 months. I had a mortgage at the time. I racked up loans, I racked up credit cards, anything to keep me going. Okay. Hopefully that won't be the case for you, but that was the case for me. And that's honestly the truth. 3, we promised my brother we would be out of his garage within 6 weeks. We were in that garage 14 months again. Right. I drove a £250 car for 18 months. And after that, I upgraded to a 25-year-old Ford Mondeo that didn't lock. I couldn't lock it. Didn't lock. Couldn't leave anything in it. It was an old rust bucket Ford Mondeo. I drove that for another 3 years after. So it was 4.5 years, and probably we were up to about 12 staff before I even bought myself what was a nice car, and that was even a 5-year-old Audi at the time. Okay. Too many people, as soon as they get a bit of money, they go out and they get something flashy or whatever, and they don't reinvest the money into the business. right? We had to let a friend go, our first employee. He was a new father, and it was just days before our first Christmas as a business, right? That didn't feel great. So there's real costs here. There's real personal relationship costs. There's real costs to consider. But again, these are hurdles that other people fall at. If you can get over these hurdles, you're going to win, right? When we're asked, how have you built a business like this? My answer is always the same, okay? Live like you're broke for many, many years, right? Wasn't hard for us, we were, right? Reinvest every penny back into the business. Work every single day towards an intentional vision that you've created for your life and for your business, right? It's hard, it's not pretty, and it takes a huge amount from you personally. There is no secret. But guess what? When you give people that answer, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear that one, okay? They want to hear the hack, the shortcut. There is no shortcut. This is it. Number 4, and I think we'll finish on number 4. I've got a good story as number 5. I'll save it for future weeks. I know you're excited about that. But number 4 is an important one. I'm going to cover it. Personal performance. Okay. Now, in the early days, I mean, your plan might be just to stay a one-man band or a one-person business for forever, and that's cool. But in the early days, and if you want to grow big, it's going to be you. It might be you, business partner, whatever. So you are your business in the early days. And you are your business throughout, because even when you get 80 people, the culture of the business reflects you as a person and how you live. Okay. People look up to you for answers. And if you're not living the right way, it filters down. You create a culture that's can be quite toxic. I've seen it elsewhere. So 3 things to consider just briefly. Watch carefully what you are filling your brain with. Okay. Are you binging Netflix or are you reading? Now, we all like to watch a bit of Netflix and chill at the weekend, whatever. You used a catchphrase there I wasn't supposed to use. You know, are you binge watching TV? Or are you reading sometimes? Are you reading most of the time? Are you reading every day? Are you drinking every weekend? Are you drinking during the week? Are you getting enough water? Are you getting enough sleep? Okay. These things all have a huge impact on your drive and your ambition, and therefore compounded over time the financial results of your business, let's say over a year. Number 2, self-talk. Okay. Now, we all talk to ourselves in our mind. If you're an entrepreneur, you talk to yourself all the time. Now, we've all got that voice. So a very slight but effective change in the language you use in self-talk can really propel your life and your goals forward. All right. Now, rather than using the word if to yourself, just in your mind, switch it to when. So, for example, rather than if I ever launch my business, if I ever run that marathon, if I ever complete my dissertation, imagine the power, just yourself, of changing that word to when. When I launch my business, when I run that marathon, when I complete my dissertation. You see, changing from if to when punctures through a mental barrier in your mind. It takes it from the conscious brain to the unconscious brain, the subconscious. Okay. Now, your biggest most powerful weapon as an entrepreneur is your subconscious brain. It's like paying, but not even paying. It's like having a free strategic director running operations in your mind about big problems that are coming up, right? This strategic director works for you when you're driving, when you're washing up, when you're in the shower, when you're asleep, okay? Now, if replaced with when allows the subconscious to work on its most revolutionary topic, how. If is a conscious, shall I, shan't I, will I, won't I, okay? When is the subconscious asking how. And once you start to ask how, your journey has already started. All right. Now, finally, number 3, personal performance. Be the example, right? Now, we live in a world where we hand out participation trophies, okay? In some kids' sports, we no longer keep score for fear that one team might lose and get upset. Now, unfortunately, life and business isn't like that. Okay, there are winners and there are losers. Okay, in recruitment, for example, and pretty much every industry I know, you don't get a medal for trying or turning up. You need to play to win, and you don't want to feel ashamed about that in any way. There's nothing to be ashamed of by wanting to win. Now, there's nothing more noble, right, than being the example of others how to win. A rising tide raises all boats, as we know the well-known catchphrase. So other people who see you winning, they're up their game. You might even share information about how to win together, right? But you all improve each other infinitely. Now, I've got a very quick, I've got 2 podcasts actually that I've recorded, 2 10 minutes, a part 1 and a part 2 on goal setting. We have got some of the content coming up in a few Tuesdays' time. But if you wanted to get some of that content early, add me on Instagram, DM me, si.gardiner.mm. I can send you the links to those 2 podcasts, because goal setting is a huge part of personal performance as well. The 5th lesson I'm going to skip. It's a powerful story. I've run out of time. I will include it in next week or the week after's live if we can fit it in. But just finally, if you wanted to reach out to me, share ideas, advice, whatever, my preferred method of communication is Instagram. I respond to every DM. Right, I've got a podcast with my friend Ben Miles. He's the co-founder of a Victorious Festival, a festival that many of you may have heard of, some of you may have been to. It's one of the largest festivals in the UK. Okay, and we set that up to share some of this content, but more importantly, stories from other people, including the world of sport. We've got Olympians, we've got footballers, boxers, business, TV presenters, these things. They're all very transferable into the world of entrepreneurship. The link to that is in my bio on Instagram. Don't forget, you can win a year's worth of mentoring from me, and you'll plan a new business. All you got to do is follow me, follow the Young Entrepreneurs of England, and comment on that post that was on the Young Entrepreneurs of England Instagram page on Sunday, the 23rd of January. And that's it. I'm going to leave you to it. Hopefully you've picked up some value from today. And as I said, there's now one of these every fortnight for the next 3 fortnights. So I'll leave you there. And as I said, reach out to me if you need to know anything further. Thank you.